pleasure of interviewing Jordan Wan, founder and CEO of CloserIQ, a mission-driven recruitment firm utilizing technology to help companies recruit top sales talent, Prior to CloserIQ, Jordan led Northeast sales at StockDoc and began his career as a trading strategist at Bridgewater Associates, a global macro hedge fund with over $150 billion in AUM. Jordan Wan is a CFA, Charterhouse, and graduated from MIT with dual degrees in computer science. So thank you again, Jordan, for being here, and thank you for doing this with us. Can you please tell us your backstory?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Jilea. It's wonderful to join you today. My backstory is I'm a first-generation immigrant, immigrated to Canada when I was 6 years old, and essentially lived in a different city every 3 years after that. My parents moved around a lot when I was young. And so I kind of learned at an early age to how to assimilate into new environments and was sort of the new kid at school always. In college, I studied computer science and really fell in love with technology and how it can be used to change various industries. And I was very lucky after college to land a job at Bridgewater Associates. This is back in 2007, and was able to see the creation of Ray Dalio's principles over the subsequent years. It was a really amazing experience working there and seeing how culture can be a really powerful way of building a business and differentiating your business, even in an industry like investment management. And after that, I spent some time at a healthcare tech company called ZocDoc, which was also very, very rewarding and shaped kind of my career ultimately, as I really got into the startup world and had a chance to help the company scale sales and revenue as it was going through a really rapid rate of growth period. So I spent most of my weekdays all over the East Coast with my sales team, and during the nighttime, I would spend a lot of hours conducting phone calls, interviewing for sales reps that I had to hire for my various territories. So that was the original idea of where CloserIQ came from, as I was realizing how important hiring was and how time consuming and challenging it was to find great talent. So eventually I started CloserIQ as I thought it was a great combination of a chance to kind of apply technology and also systemization to this very archaic world of recruitment. And so fast forward to today, what we've built is a end-to-end sales-focused recruitment solution that helps companies scale their revenue the right way. And a lot of that comes from, doing things using very thoughtful kind of best practices in industry and how to interview, how to recruit, how to build healthy organizations. And so we've served over 300 of the most disruptive startups, including companies like Oscar Insurance, Trello, JustWorks, and Taboola.
Can you share the funniest or most interesting story that has happened to you since starting your business?
Sure. I don't know about the funniest, but I guess like a lot of other startups that either bootstrapped or had to work pretty hard for a couple of years without funding. We started the company from scratch and really never ended up raising capital. So money was always tight, and so we had to be really scrappy about how we were going to grow without these external resources. So in the first year, we had to barter our consulting hours. We were actually consulting for some of our customers in exchange for office space, because we didn't really have a place to work at and we were tired of working from home. So my co-founder and I would trade consulting hours for the opportunity to work in our clients' offices. So that was actually really awesome because we also got a chance to work closer with their customers, be more kind of immersed into their teams. But we also had a lot of other ways to save money, and we're kind of doing that across the board. Another way we did that was sharing one corporate Gmail account, just because we, for some reason, didn't think we needed two Gmail accounts, and it seems so silly today. But we would go to the extent of routing our emails so that it went to our personal emails, depending on which version the corporate email people sent to. And this really backfired later on when one of my co-founder's friends had emailed him at his work email and invited me to his surprise birthday party, and of course he received it as well. So those are all some of the fond memories we had from our formative years. I used to sign up users at coffee shops and bars. When I would pull out my laptop to get them to register for our site because we hadn't spent the engineering resources to do mobile optimizing our website. So we didn't want them see it on the phone and it didn't look good. So I would literally pull out my laptop at a bar and open it up and say, hey, you should register if you're looking for a new role. So, but all these things now, looking back, I think is a really great way for us to reflect on sort of those scarcity of resources and how it really forced us to focus on things that are really important and not just sort of spend money and resources lavishly without care. So I think in a lot of ways, it's actually been a really interesting way of kind of forcing a startup to grow in a very thoughtful way without, ample funding.
What do you think makes your company stand out and why?
I think one of the ways that we've kind of stood out is particularly in the recruitment industry is that there's a lot of, I think, startups that have tried to tackle recruiting as an industry, and they've raised funding to grow the solution, which I think ultimately has steered them in a direction of going down more of a traditional technology-driven approach, similar to like going to Kayak and looking for a plane ticket. I think what makes us stand out is that over time, what we've realized, partially because we were bootstrapping and partially because of our need to sort of figure out what was best for our customer, is instead of thinking about CloserIQ as a pure technology website that you go to find jobs, or more analogous to a traditional job site, we really pride ourselves on being a tech-enabled service model, meaning that we just believe that technology has a role to play in the career transition phase, and that it's more powerful to be used as an enabler to allow our recruiters to have more insights and drive more efficiency in the process. But we don't think it's a replacement for being able to speak to someone and having that kind of consultation and having someone help you prepare for interviews and help you get that offer. So one of the things I think makes us stand out really above sort of the traditional recruitment platforms or the traditional agencies is that we've been able to kind of mix best of both worlds into a tech-enabled sort of service solution. And I think part of that is really because of the fact that, we didn't raise funding, and so we didn't have to go necessarily in pursuing like a subscription model, which is very popular with software companies. And we also, benefit from the technology we built ourselves so that we have like a competitive advantage over traditional firms.
Are you working on any new and exciting projects right now?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm really excited about is, this year has been a big year for us to focus on giving back, because I think as our success has continued to grow, we want to make sure that we're giving back to the community. I'll talk about another project we're doing a little bit later on, but the one that is brand new that still hasn't been announced yet is we're working on a new project to help minorities and particularly people of color gain access to startup sales jobs. It's something that I'm personally very passionate about and have spent a lot of time thinking about some of the stigma and challenges of for minorities to get into the tech sales world, which statistically just is, dominated by primarily, white Caucasian male. And so my co-founder and I are really passionate about this topic, and we're actually building out some curriculum and building out basically a training academy for folks who either want to transition into the industry and don't have the exact idea of how to do it, or for folks who are maybe just recently graduated from college or from higher ed that are looking to get into the industry, because we think that there's just such a huge, vast opportunity set there. And given the way that globalization is working and how companies are becoming more diverse and inclusive, we believe that also, sales, which is an extension of how people reach your customers, will also need to become more diverse and inclusive. And that's something that, we think that through building the talent landscape and helping more people get access to those kind of jobs is something that we can make a big impact in as well.
Great. What advice would you give to other CEOs who are trying to help their employees thrive in the workspace?
Yeah, it sounds super cliche, but taking time off is really important as a founder or CEO. I know that people told me that, you read a lot of great article and literature. I know, Thrive Global is one of the insightful leaders in this space. And, I think we all kind of hear it, but we all sort of ignore it, especially when things get super busy, that you sort of deprioritize time away or vacation, especially as a founder. What I've come to realize is that these vacations and these time away can actually be a really powerful way to think about your business from the outside or from a different perspective. because when you get caught up in the daily grind of being in the business and running the business, you often lose a broader sight and perspective on the business as a whole. So I've found that some of the biggest changes and reflections that I've had come up with was really through time away. And I don't mean just, having a long weekend, but I mean having a week unplugged, no Wi-Fi, no emails, and a chance to really kind of figure out what's important to yourself, and a chance to kind of think about the company as a whole and see what it's really maybe missing or lacking. So that's something that I tell founders a lot now, that it's important to take time off every once in a while and really, work at taking time off. The other advice I give to founders and CEOs is that they should not put their own personal growth in the back burner either. They should be continuing to learn. And I think for a lot of folks, learning usually comes from trial and error, especially in the startup world, or through, maybe your board of advisors or board of directors. But there's something to be said too, I think, about personal growth through just reading as many great books as possible. And I found that a lot of the ways that we sort of impart wisdom is through useful frameworks. And books are a really cheap and efficient way to learn some frameworks of how other successful entrepreneurs or leaders have built their businesses. So that's something I always tell entrepreneurs. And I love to send people books as well. It's something I read that was really game-changing for me. I would usually send a copy to friends or colleagues. So that's the other thing that I tell my community as well.
None of us are able to achieve the level of success that we have without getting some help along the way. Is there someone that you're really grateful to that actually helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I guess there's two categories for me of people who I'm very, very grateful towards. I mean, on a broader basis, as an entrepreneur, especially when you first start a company, so much of it is finding the validation in the industry that you're in. And it's pretty grueling when you sort of get a chain of no's and maybes. And so to getting to those yes, or getting to someone who's supportive along the way, whether it's like an early customer who's willing to give you a chance, or willing to kind of ride out a couple of product features aren't working correctly, or friends and family even that just encourage you to kind of keep going. I think one, categorically, all those folks, too many to name, have been instrumental to our success. And then on a more personal level for me, I think it's been more, for me, it's been my mom who actually passed away a few years after I started CloserIQ. But just seeing her battle with cancer over the few years that overlap with me starting the company just really put a lot of sort of the day-to-day challenges of business and entrepreneurship into perspective. And I think it just sort of made me really kind of focus and be able to find that inspiration to know that, there's nothing that's world-shattering that could happen in your business that you can't recover from. And so that was, for me, a big inspiration for me as we were starting the company.
Great. How have you been able to bring goodness to the world with your level of success?
Yeah, I think, I don't think about it so much as, are we an altruistic company or do we do community service? I really think that success begets success, and giving back is actually a great way to become more successful. And so one of the things that we sort of observed, and one of the ways we thought about our business overall, is that if we do good work and people recognize the good work that we're doing, that naturally there will be a demand for what it is that we do, and it can turn into a profitable company. But one of the things we've had launched in late 2016 was just the passion project that we called Women in Sales. Pretty straightforward is what it's about. But what we found was that a lot of our customers, employers, were really struggling to recruit and retain women in their sales teams. And we found equally from the candidate side that individuals were very frustrated with either entering into a corporate culture that wasn't inclusive, or that they were finding that they were hitting glass ceilings in terms of their own careers. So we started with just a small, meetups, getting thought leaders and managers and executives in a room to kind of talk about why are these challenges happening, what can we do about them. But very quickly, it's grown to become now a quarterly event series. We just launched in Boston, so now it's in New York and Boston, and we're planning on growing this movement throughout the country. But it's become such an inspirational event that I'm still really pleasantly amazed at, attending these events and seeing folks that come up to me afterwards and say, thank you so much. This event was so inspiring. I just didn't even know that there's so many stories of people being able to kind of persevere and get to executive level roles. And I think having mentors and having that kind of external employee resource group has been really instrumental to our community, and something that we're both, very, very thankful that we started, and also now very passionate about kind of growing that presence. So that's something that we're really proud of, and something that we're going to continue to be growing.
Can you share the top 5 ways that diversity can help, and in diversity inclusion can help a company's bottom line?
Yeah, I think there's probably many more than just these 5 ways, but off the top of my head, I think number one, pretty obvious, but diversity and inclusion, I think, can really help with a employer branding and hiring. It's just that if you're looking to hire only one type of individual, then you're going to be limited in terms of the talent pool they're looking to reach. If you are an organization that cares about diversity and inclusion and have made significant strides in demonstrating that, then you're going to be able to reach a much larger talent pool, which will help with your hiring process, your ability to grow as a company. So I think that's something that's really important off the top of my head. Number 2 is, particularly in the sales profession, which is the profession that we serve, having a diverse and inclusive team, particularly in your sales team or any team that's facing customers, it helps your team develop much more empathy towards your customers. And like I was mentioning earlier, everybody's customer base is becoming more diverse, right? As globalization happens, as the world becomes more in tune with the importance of D&I. So having a diverse team yourself is really important to kind of align yourself with the customers that you're speaking to every day. Number 3 would be that I think that just in diversity of thinking and fostering that environment where people are speaking up and contributing their own insights and their own opinions in a productive way can also help you improve the product and services that you're building. Because I think there's a herd mentality in a lot of the ways that we build products and services for ourselves, and having more people that are having different experiences and backgrounds will allow us to also think more broadly about how to cater these products and services to a larger audience. Number 4 I can think of is that I think having a more diverse and inclusive type of environment also can help you mitigate workplace compliance risks and chances of litigation. I think there's plenty of press coverage to show what happens when things go really wrong at the corporate level. But basically what it does is having a diverse employee base and making sure that everyone is included in decision making and everyone's feeling like their voice is heard allows an organization to build a much more a stronger sense of self-control and checks and balances to make sure that things don't go to this go wrong in when we do have a herd mentality. The final thing I can think of is I think it just helps with employee happiness and engagement. I think companies that are more diverse and are able to bring people of different backgrounds, experiences, and thinking into the company and include them into the conversation, include them to the day-to-day, just has a much more closer-knit employee base. And having a closer-knit employee base is really important because that is what helps with retention and it helps with engagement and productivity.
Great. Can you share a life lesson or a favorite life lesson that you live every day?
Yeah. So going back to talking about kind of reading books, and I think one of the lessons that I really learned through reading is the motto, "The score takes care of itself," which is also a biography about the late Bill Walsh, who was the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. He took one of NFL's worst teams to 5 Super Bowls in the 80s. And I'm not even a Niners fan particularly, but I love the book. I love sort of the lesson around focusing on the leading indicators, focusing on the process, focusing on the journey. And if you focus on those things, all the profits and revenue and all the successes you want to have will come. And I think that's a daily reminder to me in terms of fighting the battles that really matter and also focusing our team. And particularly we have a large sales team ourselves, and even having them focused on training, focusing on their pipeline, focusing on the customer conversation, focusing on creating a great experience and less focus on revenue. And I think that has been something that's served us really well as a life lesson for business.
Some of the biggest names in business, VC funding, sports, and entertainment read this column. Is there a person in the world or in the U.S. that you would love to have a private breakfast or lunch with, and why? He just might be watching.
Yeah, I love sports, and I got to go with Greg Popovich, the head coach of San Antonio Spurs. Again, just have read so many inspiring stories about his leadership style and his unique ability to build a winning culture. I just have a lot of respect for him, not only because of his success as a head coach in the NBA, but also his humanitarian work, and even just more recently how he was just very public and very supportive of Becky Hammonds' bid to become the first female coach in the NBA. And I think just reading between the lines and seeing sort of his habits and the way his leadership philosophy works, I don't even think it's really about gender equality for him. I just think that he is just picking the best person for the job, which I think is so refreshing and so something that I think the leadership layer, particularly in sports and entertainment and that kind of industry, really needs. So I think I look up to him as someone who I think is an innovator, someone who is an industry leader, and I'd love to meet someone like him for breakfast or whatever.
Great. So I would like to thank you for your time today. Please visit CloserIQ if you have any hiring needs, and thank you so much, Jordan, for your time.